The moment a justice system loses the trust of the people, everything else starts to crack. Because once citizens believe the rules apply to some, but not all, the entire idea of fairness collapses. And that's exactly the tension boiling underneath this hearing, the kind of tension you can feel even through a screen. It's the feeling that something is off, that something isn't adding up, and that those who were supposed to protect the public may have spent years protecting themselves instead. And if you listen closely to the questions, the frustration, the interruptions, the raised eyebrows, this wasn't just a routine hearing.
Here, what we have witnessed over the last 4 years with a weaponized DOJ. My colleagues have talked about this, and the American people know this. They know what was carried out against President Trump and his administration, and in November, they voted to see an end to 2 tiers of justice, 2 tiers of treatment, 2 tiers of access, because they have absolutely had it with the lies, with the accusations, and with the attacks that have come against so many people who were just seeking to live their lives. And then all of a sudden found the FBI or another federal agency or the DOJ knocking at their door. You know, Ms. Bondi, it would make you believe that my colleagues have learned nothing from the elections in November. They don't see this as a movie script that someone may have liked to write. What they see is this is real life. And they want a restoration to equal justice, equal access, equal treatment, abiding by the rule of law. Many of us have talked today about making America safe again. And in Tennessee, I hear a good bit about this. And as we've discussed your nomination, one of the things I've mentioned to people is your career as a prosecutor. And you have touched on that some today. And you are bringing that insight of being a prosecutor to bear. And I do appreciate that. Now, one thing that I think is noteworthy, and in preparation for the hearing, I looked some of these numbers up. During President Trump's first term, violent crime in this country actually fell. Yes. It fell by 17%. And in the first 2 years of the Biden administration, it soared by 43%. This is crime that is taking place in all of our communities. We've seen a rise, whether it's California or Tennessee, we have seen a rise. So I want you to talk to Tennesseans, to Californians, to all Americans about what you're going to do to get this crime rate down in this country.
Senator, thank you for that question. And despite the questions from Senator Schiff, I look forward to working with you and the state of California to do everything we can to fight violent crime in California. And you know as well as I, that crime is only going to go through the roof now after these forest fires. You're going to have looting. You're going to have price gouging. You're going to have so many things that I have dealt with in the state of Florida, and I am committed to working with California just as much as I am committed to working with you, Senator Kennedy, in the tragedy that just took place in Louisiana, given all the human beings that were murdered in your state. And we have the Super Bowl coming up in less than 3 weeks now, I believe, Senator. I've been a little busy. But we've got to ensure, if I'm confirmed, that everyone in this country is safe. And I will work with you. I will work with you, Senator. I will work with all of you in this country for everything that Senator Blackburn said. We have got to reduce violent crime, and we have got to restore integrity to our law enforcement officers. Donald Trump, we keep saying he won this election by 77.3 million votes and 312 electoral votes. Look at the map of California, Senator Schiff. It's bright red, the popular vote, for a reason. People want law and order. They want to be safe so they can go to take their children to school, so they can go to church, Senator Hawley. People want safe streets. Of course we care about our economy and what's happening in this world, but if we're not safe, none of that works. We have got to come together. We have got to work together to make America safe again. And that, in turn, will make America great again. And I don't know where that phrase has become a bad word, because I think that's a great one, making America great again.
Let me move on with you to something else that's about law and order, and that is Section 1507. Because making certain that our justices are protected is important. And we also, with our judges, Section 1507 makes illegal any protest outside of a judge's residence if the intent is to influence the judge's decision-making. And we have heard about the protest outside of justices' homes where they were shouting loud and clear things like, and I'm quoting some of that, "If you take away our choices, we will riot," end quote. Another one, "No privacy for us, no peace for you," end quote. In other words, if the justices did not vote to uphold Roe and Casey, the protesters would continue to harass them. Despite this clear violation of the law, Merrick Garland did not bring a single charge, not one single charge, under Section 1507. Will you commit to faithfully enforcing Section 1507 as Attorney General?
I will faithfully enforce that law and all laws that I am asked to review. And Senator, I watched that on TV and it horrified me, the protesters outside their houses. You can't do that for a reason, because our justices have to remain safe and unbiased and protected from threats, as do we all. But they do enjoy a special protection, and yes, that should be enforced.
And thank you, Ms. Bondi. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This was the boiling point of a country demanding answers, demanding safety, and demanding that the law stop acting like it has favorites. The stakes weren't political, they were personal. Because when crime rises and accountability falls, people don't see statistics. They see danger creeping closer to their own front doors. That's why this moment hit so hard. People across the country are watching crime rise in their neighborhoods, watching violent attacks go viral, watching prosecutors argue over politics while ordinary families try to figure out how to stay safe. And for many, this hearing felt like the first time someone actually said out loud what they've been thinking for years, that the system feels uneven, unbalanced, and unrecognizable. The public isn't asking for perfection. They're asking for equal treatment. They're asking for consistency. They're asking for leaders who care more about protecting families than protecting political careers. It's the growing belief that while some get the benefit of the doubt, others get the full weight of the system dropped on them. And that's where the temperature in this room started to rise. Because when you strip away the talking points, the fancy wording, and the polished political speeches, you're left with something simple: the feeling that justice has drifted away from the people it's meant to serve. And as this hearing played out, that frustration came pouring out. The idea that federal agencies have been knocking on doors, pressuring people, making uneven decisions, that hit a nerve. Not because of who it targeted, but because of what it symbolized. A system that's supposed to be fair has been accused of acting like it isn't. And millions of Americans, especially those living in communities hit hardest by crime, see it every single day. For years, they've watched crime surge. They've watched violent acts increase. They've watched neighborhoods lose their sense of safety. And according to speakers in this hearing, the issue wasn't just rising violence. It was leadership failing to respond with urgency. When violent crime falls under one administration and then spikes dramatically during the next, people notice. They may not memorize percentages, but they feel fear rising in their lives. They feel tension in their communities. They hear the stories, see the news, and notice the shift. And whether lawmakers want to admit it or not, the public has reached a breaking point. The conversation here didn't revolve around buzzwords. It revolved around a nation feeling unsafe. Whether it's California, Tennessee, Louisiana, New York, people everywhere are wrestling with the same question. Why doesn't the system feel like it's designed for them anymore? Families just want to walk outside without worrying. Parents want their kids to get to school safely. Communities want to believe police officers, prosecutors, and courts are doing their jobs with fairness, consistency, and transparency. But lately, that belief has been shaken. And then the hearing shifted into a topic that made the room even more tense: the crime waves that follow natural disasters. It's something most people don't think about until it hits their state. But after floods, fires, hurricanes, chaos tends to follow. Looting, price gouging, scams, violence. When law enforcement resources get stretched thin, opportunists step in. And when that happens, the fear multiplies, because disaster already puts people in survival mode. Add lawlessness on top of it, and safety becomes a luxury. The witness spoke about this from experience, dealing with criminals who took advantage of disaster-stricken communities. And the warning was clear: what happened in one state could happen anywhere. But crime wasn't the only concern. The hearing took an even sharper turn when Section 1507 was mentioned, the law that makes it illegal to protest outside a judge's home with the intent to influence their decisions. On paper, it sounds straightforward. Judges should be protected. They need to feel safe making rulings without intimidation, threats, or harassment. But the controversy isn't the law itself. It's the fact that, despite clear violations happening in front of cameras, not a single charge was filed. Protesters screaming outside private homes, chanting threats, surrounding neighborhoods, and nothing was done. Whether someone agrees with the protesters or not, the law is the law. And when laws are selectively ignored, trust in the entire system crumbles. Because this wasn't about politics. This was about safety, real, physical safety. Judges have families, children, neighbors. They shouldn't have to weigh personal security before making a ruling. But the witness described watching footage of these protests with genuine horror. And honestly, many Americans felt the same way. There's a line between free speech and intimidation, and watching crowds protest on front lawns crossed that line for a lot of people. If leaders don't enforce protections for judges, the message sent is dangerous: that some laws matter only when they're convenient. And if a judge, one of the highest positions in the justice system, can't rely on basic protection, what hope does an average citizen have? That's the undercurrent behind all of this. It's not just about protests. It's about the fear that the law has become a suggestion rather than a standard. Not enforcing Section 1507 may sound like a small oversight, but to millions, it felt like a symbol of uneven justice. If some people can break laws without consequence, what's stopping that imbalance from spreading? As the hearing continued, the witness promised to enforce the law fully and fairly. Promised to work with every state, regardless of political differences. Promised to restore integrity to the justice system. Promised to focus on violent crime, on public safety, on rebuilding trust. And while promises alone don't fix things, the tone was different. It wasn't the careful, calculated speaking style people expect from officials. It was blunt, direct, almost emotional. The witness didn't downplay the anger in the country. Instead, they acknowledged it. They recognized that people feel unsafe. They recognized the loss of trust. They recognized that enforcement has been uneven. And they recognized that unless something changes, the justice system risks losing legitimacy altogether. But the deeper issue, the one threading through every moment of this hearing, is the fracture between the public and the institutions meant to protect them. People don't feel heard. They don't feel protected. They don't feel like justice is blind anymore. They feel like it glances around to see who is involved before deciding how harsh to be. That kind of doubt is poison to a democracy. And you could feel it in the questions being asked, the reactions, the energy in the room. Everyone knew the stakes were bigger than one nominee, because what the country needs right now isn't slogans. It's consistency. It's steadiness. It's leadership that enforces the law fairly, defends victims, supports law enforcement, and protects the public without bias. People want safe neighborhoods. They want equal justice. They want accountability. Without that, nothing else matters. Not the economy, not politics, not speeches. Safety is the foundation of everything. And as the hearing wrapped up, one truth lingered. If America wants to rebuild trust, it has to start with fairness, with transparency, with leaders who enforce laws not just when it's convenient, but when it's necessary. The public is watching closely now, closer than ever. They're tired of excuses. They want results. They want answers. They want a justice system that feels like it belongs to the people again. So what do you think? Should the justice system face stricter oversight? Should protests outside private homes be treated more seriously? Should leaders be held accountable when enforcement becomes inconsistent? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. And if you found this breakdown insightful, make sure you hit like, tap subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video.